you'll probably understand it better if I go over it with you, because even though we did it together as a class, I've had to work with everyone individually on it because it's a little bit of a challenge. I mean, the basic premise of the assignment is this. Do you ever listen to NPR? Do you ever listen to news on the radio?
Yeah, I'm like a huge NPR fan. I've listened to it my whole life, so.
Okay, well, so that's great, because the real reason why I do the NPR Reflections assignment, I do it 3 times, like in September, kind of once each week for the next 3 weeks, is that most Journalism 200 students have like never listened to news on the radio. And so when I assign them the audio stories, they have no idea what they're trying to create. So the analogy I use a lot is like, if this is a class on how to draw an elephant and you'd never seen an elephant, you probably wouldn't be able to draw like a great elephant, right?
Right.
So you've got a bit of an advantage here in that you're familiar enough with NPR that this should be a little bit more comfortable to you than it is to the other students. But having said that, let me walk you through. Go ahead.
Oh, no, that's great. I just said that was good.
Oh, you said great. Okay. So, all right. Let me share the screen. So you can see me, right? Can you see me?
Yeah, I can see you. It's kind of lagging, but.
Okay.
Okay,
Well,
perfect.
I'll try and go slow, and just let me know if you miss anything, okay?
Okay.
All right. So first of all, where you'll find the straightforward instructions for the NPR Reflection is, do you have a Mac or a PC?
Mac.
Okay, so if you go to if you go to Chrome and you do Command F, you can like do a search in the browser, right? And if you type in if you go to the syllabus, you go to the about the course and instructor and do NPR Reflection, it'll first show up in grades, and then here are the directions. Okay.
Okay.
So what I say is, you need to explain why you chose the story, what questions the reporter would have had to have asked to get his sources to give the sound bites that are used in the story. Now that's basically all you need to do. But, I'd also kind of encourage you to think about this stuff, how the reporters did their jobs, how they developed their ideas for the story, how they decided whom to interview, what kind of research they relied upon. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So, obviously, because you're an NPR fan, to go to npr.org for the stories, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, and that if you like hover over this, the 2 main news shows. Do you listen to the main news shows, Morning Edition and All Things Considered?
I usually All Things Considered or whatever's on Hawaii Public Radio.
Okay, cool. So you just go to All Things Considered, and then look, they just changed to a new thing. Let me go back to yesterday's example, because it'll just be easier for me to point out. So you would think that so you're looking for a feature story, and one thing I think that you didn't see is, let me pull this up for you. Okay. So on a simplest level, I grabbed a picture of this front page once when I was explaining this to Journalism 200s. Wait. Can you see the top of the screen? Well, I don't think you need to, but I grabbed this front page because which of these is the hard news story on the front page and which of these is the feature?
Treasured memories. The knife fatally shot is the news story, and
Right.
then the memories is the feature.
Exactly. So that's at the simplest level, the difference between hard news and a feature, right?
Yeah.
Now, in an ideal world, everything on All Things Considered, I would, would be clearly hard news or feature, and I would just say, just listen to the features, don't listen to the hard news. The problem is that you've got all this stuff, right? Like, so, for example, would you think this is hard news or a feature?
Feature. Probably.
Right. It would seem to be, but like if you listen to it, you're going to, because you know the show, you're going to recognize this. Now, first of all, they're going to probably give us a bunch of crappy ad stuff. So we have to, sit through that for a second. But then you're going to hear the host. Now, obviously, when I assign you to create an audio story, you're not going to play the host. You're going to be a reporter. So we're going to hear the host first. We can kind of ignore that. And then the question is the reporter coming out and telling a feature? So, like, let's listen.
The Gulf Coast faces catastrophic flooding after yet another hurricane.
So this is the host, right? So
Yeah.
So we can kind of ignore this person because you're not going to be this person.
Hurricane, okay. This one, Sally, lumbered ashore early this morning. Meanwhile, record-setting fires have been burning in the West for weeks. These climate-fueled disasters are not only dangerous, they're costly. Billions of dollars have been lost so far this year. NPR's climate team has been looking into what that means for the economy and for families. Nate Rott is in Oregon, and Rebecca Hersher is just back from the Gulf Coast. Nate and Rebecca, hello to both of you.
Hey there. Thanks.
And Becky, let's put this first question to you.
Okay, so do you see why that's not a feature now?
Yeah, they're talking about like the current topics, like the fires and everything, right?
No, it's because it's of the format. Because you notice how they've got, the host is bringing them in as guests and doing a Q&A. Mm-hmm. So you don't want to do that kind of story. That's not the kind of thing I'm going to assign you, like where you and do like a question and answer with a single person, right? So you're going to do something more like this story, right? Which is, well, let me show you one that technically is a feature, but it's probably not going to be the kind of thing that you would end up producing, and we can talk about why in a second. So let's listen to this for a second. So again, we're going to hear the host, and they're going to introduce the reporter, which would be doing your job, Cheryl Corley. And so we'll listen to that for a second.
For months, protests over the police-involved killings of Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, and others reinvigorated an intense debate over policing. Then the mayor of Louisville, Kentucky, announced the city would pay $12 million to Breonna Taylor's family and institute a number of police reforms. That highlighted an aspect less discussed, the financial impact of police misconduct on cities and taxpayers. NPR's Cheryl Corley reports.
Cities can face hundreds of lawsuits every year, charging, among other things, that police used excessive or deadly force or made a false arrest. Many times, details of settlements are hidden behind confidentiality agreements. UCLA law professor Joanna Schwartz studies how jurisdictions budget and pay for police legal expenses. She says although payouts can total in the millions, more often they are in the thousands of dollars range, and with an important determining factor:
the number of cases filed and the number of dollars that are paid to resolve cases.
Okay, so you get the idea, right, of that story. Do you see why I'm saying that's probably not the kind of story you're going to end up producing either?
Oh, wait, so the first one was a Q&A, so you don't want that, and then you don't want this type either?
Well, this one is a feature. But it's probably not going to be like when I assign you the type of thing you're going to end up.
Right.
You understand why I'm kind of suggesting that? I mean, you'll do it this way, but it probably won't be this kind of story exactly.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's sort of analyzing some policy, and it's, whereas this one about the guy who's thrown out of his home or whatever, or the people who were thrown out of their homes. Listen to how this one begins.
There's good news for the millions of Americans struggling to pay rent. The federal government recently barred landlords from evicting renters who've been hurt financially by the pandemic. But recent moratoriums in most states haven't stopped all landlords from trying to remove tenants. NPR's Jim Zarroli reports.
21-year-old Ruby Jensen moved from Idaho to California last year, hoping for a fresh start. She met a guy and they rented a room in a house in Los Angeles. Things went okay for a while. Then in June, the landlady contacted her, angry about the condition of the house.
She sent the text saying that I need everyone to move out of the house. I'm going to be moving my family back in.
So, okay, do you see what this one is like?
Yeah.
What Jim Zarroli's doing?
Story. Yeah.
Yeah, it's more of a story. And I mean, you are going to want the facts, right? Like this 21-year-old isn't going to be able to tell Jim Zarroli what's going on with evictions all over town.
Right.
But you know, it's more of storytelling, right? It's more, you know, so that's kind of what I mean. So you want to find each week for the next 3 weeks an example like that, and then write a reflection like what I'm suggesting in here.
Okay, yeah, so for the reflection, you just want one NPR or podcast, like one topic?
Per week, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Like one story. Choose one story per week,
yeah.
from either Morning Edition or All Things Considered, right?
Okay, great.
And then, you know, but also you have to write a reflection on your homework each week, you know, whatever project you do. So write about your trip to the Alamo on a Mall.